Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with What Are You Listening to Lately? Or particularly, what am I listening to lately? And the answer is, that's an abbreviation, by the way, WAYLTL. WAYLTL. Yes. What are you listening to lately? What I'm listening to lately is Michael Daugherty's Metropolis Symphony. Oh, I love this piece. I was at the Carnegie Hall premiere and with David Zinman, and I believe it was the Baltimore Symphony. And it blew me away. It was a very odd program. It had a bunch of things on it, and this was first. And I thought to myself, okay, it's going to be the typical, opening contemporary jeu d'esprit lasting 5 minutes or so, and then we get through it. No, it turns out it's a 5-movement extravaganza, lasting like 40 minutes, and it went on and on and on. And much as I may have questioned the wisdom of that kind of programming, I really enjoyed the work. I didn't want to hear anything afterwards, but I really enjoyed the work. I mean, I know why they put it first. It's best to sort of just stun your audience when you've got them trapped and they can't go anywhere, when you've got a really interesting contemporary novelty. But the Metropolis Symphony is, like so many of Michael Daugherty's pieces, based on a combination of classical technique with American vernacular subjects. And in this case, the vernacular is Superman comics, making it one of the few pieces based on comic strips, along with Janicek's The Cunning Little Vixen and the musical Annie and, a couple other things we may have come into contact with. Now, when I was a kid, let me just give you the story, the background here. I was not a big Superman fan when it came to the television show. I thought the television show was kind of corny. I liked the comics. As soon as I learned how to read, I started reading comics, and Superman comics, of course, were, de rigueur, if you read comics. And so I really enjoyed those. And so I knew these characters rather well. I mean, the TV show, you didn't really know, like Lex Luthor, and you didn't know the little thing from the fifth dimension. It's pronounced, I don't know, you can't pronounce it. It's MXYZP. ZPTLK or something like that. Yes. So, that stuff I knew. And so this came around and I was like, ooh, this is going to be fun. And when I was a kid, there was a Broadway production of Superman that was really rather nifty. I mean, it really was. And I went to see it. I mean, I didn't go to see it. My mother took me to see it with my little brother. I was very, very lucky because my mother was an educator and she worked in the public school system, and she knew just what was missing in public school education in white suburban America, particularly, when it came to cultural things. And so my mother had no qualms about taking me out of school every so often, a couple times a year or so, to go to New York and see something really good and interesting. Because what is the point of living 70 miles away from New York City and never going to New York City to enjoy what New York City had to offer? Well, one of the things it had to offer was a Superman on Broadway sort of thing. And so we went to see it. And I remember very little about the plot. I remember the coolest thing was, they were going to see Superman live. We were going to see him fly live. And of course, they attached a cable to him and they hauled him around all over the place. But what was really cool is, in order to do distance effects, they had various size Superman miniature model things. And so he would get hauled off front and center away from us as the life-size Superman. Then you'd see these mini Superman going, along the back of the stage, as he got further and further away. It was really very clever. And I just remember thinking, gee, I wonder how they do that. I mean, it was really, really neat. And afterwards, of course, we all got to line up and meet Superman himself and have him autograph our programs. And I could only imagine, now, in the wisdom of hindsight, what a horrifying nightmare that must have been for the actors, to stand there with lines of little brats. And I was a brat. I mean, And so we got to Superman after waiting in line, and he picked me up. He picked me up, and he bounced me around. I was only 5 or 6 or something, or 4. I was little. I was really little. I don't even know if my brother was with us. I was that little. And it was like, I felt like annoyed that he was like bouncing me up and down like a little kid, So he's always like, hi. I'm like, hi, Superman. Yeah, At that point, I was like really over it. And he looks at me and he looks at my mother. And he says, is this your mother? And I look at him like he's the biggest moron on earth. And I said, no, it's my grandmother. And my mother was like embarrassed. And, he looked at her and she looked at him and he signed my program and we walked away. And my mother was like, you be rude, you little, I was like, okay, yeah. Anyway, that was Superman. And as we left the theater, Lois Lane, the actress, walked out as well. She was like going for lunch or something. And that sort of also broke the enchantment. But anyway, all of that is completely irrelevant. This is just a way of saying that Superman was part of every American kid's, childhood. Especially in the 60s, which is when this was, the mid 60s. And when this symphony came out, I was, of course, skeptical because, it's one of those classical contemporary fusion type things. And us snooty classical music people are quite likely to just look at this and say, oh, gee whiz, it's one of those trashy things, but it isn't. It's fun. Yeah, it really is. But there's a lot of craft to this piece. It's enormously well written. It's got fabulous orchestral effects. It's got police whistles going off and a siren and ship's bells and, all kinds of really cool contemporary orchestral sounds that you haven't heard before. It's completely tonal, of course, because it's modern American classical music in the post-minimalist, post-modern, post-serial, post-breakfast, cereal. No, just post. It's very post, and it's clever, and I just loved it, and I think it's wonderful. This is the second recording, which is a great thing because it means perhaps maybe someday, it will be a popular work, a semi-repertory work. We don't know. The movements are entitled Lex Luthor, and Krypton. Lex Luthor is sort of a violin concerto, a devilish violin concerto with pop music rhythms. Chung, 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 chung. Oh, it's just great. Then we have Krypton blowing up. It's suitably apocalyptic and doom-laden. And then Mizbachuk, the little imp from the fifth dimension. And Lois. This is like a montage of Superman rescuing Lois Lane from all kinds of crazy situations. It's very short. It's like 5 minutes. And then finally, the Red Cape Tango, which is a reflection on Superman's last battle with Doomsday. And, it's based, of course, on the Dies Irae, that wonderful, the tango, of course, that wonderful tune, which has influenced everybody from Berlioz to Rachmaninoff to Estevez, you name it, it's in there. So there you go. It's just full of juicy music. And you also get here the fabulous piano concerto Deus Ex Machina, which is about trains. It's a piano concerto that describes 3 types of railroad trains, which is really rather nifty too. It's just fun. The performers are the Nashville Symphony under Giancarlo Guerrero. Now, this recording is the second. Like I said, David Zinman did record it originally, which is wonderful, and they're both terrific performances. This one won like every award in the world. It won 3 Grammys. It won the Oscars. It won the Nobel Prize. It won the Tonys. It won the Stanley Cup. You name it, it won it. It was really a highly acclaimed recording, and deservedly so. And it sounds fabulous. And I just think this is great stuff. And I wanted to bring it to your attention because I was listening to it recently. And you have to go back. You have to listen to these things multiple times. They're never going to make it into the world of the classics or anything unless there's repetition. And big, long 40-minute symphonies based on Superman, it's asking a lot. It's asking a lot of your time and attention, and I get that. But this deserves it. Daugherty is a wonderful composer. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.